1 in 9 people in Montana are facing hunger. So when you sit in a group, in a community environment or something, think of how many people could be experiencing that.
Welcome back to the Missoula Podcast, episode 78. Gayle, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Gayle, can you walk us through what first inspired you with a passion to get involved with food banking?
Well, I've been in the nonprofit sector for a long time. We don't want to say how many years. It'll age me. But I've been more on the service side and had been partnering with the local food bank where I was at. And so it was really something that kind of started about the benefit. I understood the benefit of these statewide and regional food banks and really how they serve people, how they serve agencies, and really the value that they have in their communities. So I started working at a regional food bank in Cascade County, and then had this opportunity to do it on a statewide basis and just didn't want to miss that chance.
Well, take me back even further.
Mm-hmm.
What first drew you to nonprofits and that type of work?
Very simple. I wanted to serve the people and not corporations. And I wanted to be able to feel like every day I was going to work and doing something to improve my community.
What is the primary mission of the Montana Food Bank, and how is that different from other food banks?
We are a statewide agency, so we serve all of the other partner agencies that serve the individuals. So that's one of the differentiations. We also expand a little bit more than just food acquisition and distribution. We also do a lot of advocacy work. We try to do a lot of technical support for agencies to help them get started, community building, those types of things. So we expand a little bit beyond just the traditional food pantry distribution.
All right. When you say serve people, take me back to when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
When did that first come up in your life where you're like, I don't want to go about me making money, corporations.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be all about the people. Was there a moment in time that you remember that happened?
You know, actually, it was probably when I was in college. I always had a love of law, but I never really wanted to do the corporate law. I wanted to do something more working with people. And long story short, ended up moving to Montana, and my path to a law degree didn't happen. But my first job was with a corporation, and I just really was feeling disconnected from it. I feel like I needed to have a purpose and a reason as to why I was doing that work every single day. So I had an opportunity to work for a small nonprofit, and I thought this was it. This was it. I could see the smile on people's faces when they received their services. I could see the difference that these services made in their lives, and that's what I wanted to do every day.
Where were you at before you moved to Montana? Where are you from?
Well, I'm originally from Michigan.
Oh, okay.
So I've been here a long, long time. Moved here about 40 years ago. So, but I grew up in Michigan.
So you were 2 when you moved to Missoula?
Yes, I was 2. Okay. We'll go with that.
Where'd you go to college?
Let's see. I went to Central Michigan, graduated from there. And then actually I went to, when I moved to Montana, I went to, at that time, it was the College of Great Falls.
Okay.
I think now it's University of Providence or something like that. It's been through a couple of name changes. And then I have my master's from the Phoenix University. So
how did Montana get on your map from Michigan?
You know, at that time I was in my 20s and I was getting married, and my soon-to-be spouse was an avid hunter. And he used to come out here for about 6 weeks every year and hunt. So when we were looking at getting married, we decided, hey, let's move now. You know, now's the time or you'll never get a chance to. So he just started throwing resumes out, had a job offer in Glendive and in Great Falls. And so we flipped a coin. No offense to Glendive, but I'm really glad it landed on Great Falls because I came from Detroit. So from Detroit to Great Falls was a big enough culture leap as it was for us. But ended up just loving Montana. Never really had any desire to go back to Michigan.
Growing up in Michigan, what'd your parents do for work as a kid? Were they involved in nonprofits or? Not
really. That's what's kind of funny is I never really had a whole lot of exposure to nonprofits as a kid growing up. It wasn't until I got to be an adult. And I also, feel like kind of a little bit of a backstory. I was a single parent for many years and struggling like a lot of single parents do with a couple of kids growing up. And I never really had to use a pantry because my church was very supportive of me. But now in hindsight, I see what they were doing was very much pantry services. And so that was kind of a connection I started to make of I wouldn't have survived those years with my children if it had not been for the support of my church, bringing me food and helping me with things that, expenses that I couldn't handle, things like that. And that's exactly what these neighborhood pantries do.
Yeah. So it seems like you noticed right away that there's a lot of people that need help like you, being a single mom, and you wanted to fill that gap for other people. Am I hearing that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the reward and the joy every day. The hard part is at our state level, we don't always get to meet the people directly. So we really do try to encourage, staff whenever it is possible to be out there and work with our local partners so that we can have that experience and we get that feedback because we're at a little bit different level than that.
Do you have any specific stories from anyone that has been impacted by the food bank that sticks out to you particularly, like ones that's near and dear to your heart?
Absolutely. A few years ago, we used to do in-person interviews for a client hunger survey. And I was in a very small community and I had an opportunity to interview an older woman. And the mentality of seniors is very, very different in that, first of all, they don't ever want to take something because they feel like they're taking away from a child or a family. They also are survivors. So they've been through some rough times already and they don't realize that they're in a tough position. But one of the questions that we ask is, do you ever skip a meal? Are you ever hungry? And her response was well, I always keep, a pot of beans on the stove. And when I'm hungry, I just grab a spoonful or two. So no, I never skip a meal. And I was like, yeah, that's not really what you consider to be a meal. Okay, that's not healthy and that's not sustaining you and that's not nutritious. So that kind of struck me. Sometimes people just don't realize what a benefit these pantries can be to them until they utilize those services and they don't think they're in a rough position or they don't want to take away from someone else. And that's not the case. They're there for everybody.
Gayle, I always love connecting the dots on why people do what they do today based on maybe something from their past or their history. So hearing about you as a single mom going to a food bank, and now here you are, food banks supplying food and helping single moms. What is it that continues to motivate you? What keeps you showing up to work every day? What is it that just gets you out of bed and gets you back into that bank?
And I think it goes back to, knowing that what we do every single day is benefiting somebody. Somebody hopefully is not going to skip a meal. Somebody hopefully is able to afford their utilities because they don't have to buy groceries this month. So that is kind of, I think, a motivator for not only me, but everybody on that staff. We all have truly a passion for the root reason as to why we do our job.
Tell us a little bit about the organization at the food bank. How many people on your team? What is the logistics to put this on at the scale that you do?
It's tremendous. We have about 22 people on our staff. And across the board from operations, warehouse, truck drivers, we have CDL drivers to people who are in marketing and fund development and accounting. And so we cover the whole gamut, just as you would any other, large corporation. Basically what we do is we acquire food and it can be done in a number of ways. We buy it. We have it donated to us, and sometimes it's within Montana, and sometimes we work with our national network partners. We're a partner of Feeding America, and we're one of 200 food banks around the United States that are all a part of that partnership.
Gayle, forgive my ignorance.
Sure.
Where does that food come from, like those partnerships? Is it grocery stores that are overstock? Is it just distributors that have excess? Like where does that actual food?
Kind of combination of all of the above.
Okay.
So we do have what we call as a grocery rescue program. And what we do is we develop relationships with a lot of the national organizations, the national grocers and retailers, as well as local mom and pop shops within these rural communities. And we try to connect our partner agencies with them so that they can pick up that grocery, they can do that grocery pickup every once in a while. Once a day or sometimes just once a week. It depends on what they're distributing. That's going to be food that is hit either its best by sell by date, overstock. They ordered a whole bunch and didn't sell it, so they needed to get it out before it expires. And when I say it's hit its best by sell by date, it doesn't mean it's bad. It does still have a shelf life beyond that, but they can't sell it any longer. So that's one avenue. Then we also do a lot of purchasing. We have a number of vendors that we work with across the United States, and we will buy food. We kind of serve as a broker for all of our partners. So we can help them get the bulk pricing rather than just going to their local market and buying a few cases or a pallet of something. We can get truckloads and get them that best value. And then we also get a lot of donated from manufacturers throughout the United States. And that's going to be things like stock overruns, maybe a misrun or a misprint on a box. I've gotten some bizarre stuff that have, foreign languages on it and nobody knows what it is until you open it. What kind of cereal is this? Because you can't read that language. But so it is going to be a lot of things that maybe manufacturers just rather than destroy it, they'd rather take that tax credit and donate that. And it's still perfectly good food.
It sounds like as a CEO, you're involved in a lot of contracts and negotiations, and you're connecting a lot of people on a day-to-day basis. Is there any other things that you would do? I guess, like, what does your day look like?
Well, it's a good thing I have the brain of a squirrel because I do bounce around a lot every single day. So it's not, it's more or less just kind of helping the staff to facilitate a lot of this. So we do have, direct programming that we do through the backpack program. So we work with the schools. So there's some, assistance in that way. I work with a lot of programs that also extend outside of Montana. So I do work with this Feeding America network and local or area food banks, in Montana and North Dakota, South Dakota, and so on. So I do a little bit of the more outside universe work than I think that I do than the direct work with the agencies. But it's just helping the staff to facilitate all that.
You mentioned the backpack program. What is that? Break that down for us.
Oh, it's a great program. This is for kids who usually aren't free and reduced lunch program, but the school identifies that these kids are needing some assistance on weekends and long holiday breaks. So they're going home and they're usually getting, meals at school, and then they go home and there isn't anything. So by Monday morning, they're really misbehaving and they're struggling. So this is a backpack or a bag that they take home on Friday that has a couple of days worth of meals and snacks in it. Easy to prepare, single serving. They can just pop it open and eat it, and it'll help them sustain through that weekend and that break. So we have about 7,500 kids a month get that backpack through all the schools that we work with.
Wow. Well, it's obvious you are passionate about what you do. Before we jump into our rapid fire questions, I want to ask you about one other passion. It sounds like you love some classic rock. So tell us about the best concert that you've ever seen live and why.
Oh my gosh. Well, I grew up in Detroit, so I think it's kind of something that's in the air and in our blood. So, and had a lot of friends that were really involved in music. I'm involved in music. So, I don't know. I can't think of anything else outside of that. I would have to say one of my best concerts, and it actually was in Washington that I had gone to one there just outside of Tacoma. And it was a 3-day festival. And I got to see Heart and Journey and Dave Mason and Cheap Trick. And oh my gosh, I just had a great time. It was just, 3 days of classic rock and I was in seventh heaven. So that was probably the best music festival I have ever been to. I can't tell you how many others. I mean, we had a great concert venue where I grew up and I had season tickets all through high school and college. So there's just hundreds of them.
Did you happen to grow up in South Detroit?
I was actually more north. Where Pine Knob, if you knew what Pine Knob was now, I think it's called something else. But.
I just know the lyrics to Journey, and I assume just being a small town girl with South Detroit.
I got that.
I tried too hard.
He's
there.
not funny.
Yeah.
It was bad. All right, Gayle, let's jump into our rapid fire questions. What is your first initial memory of Missoula, Montana?
My kids and I used to come here, believe it or not, for our little mini vacations. It was funny because it was close and it was something that we could do for a weekend, and we'd get a nice hotel with a pool and we could go shopping and, do these things that our community didn't have for us. So that was it. And that was probably, 25 years ago. I used to do that. So.
What's your favorite coffee shop in Missoula?
I'm not one to sit in a coffee shop, so I really love Loose Caboose. They're my regular drive-through.
Which one?
The one down on Reserve, I think, because that's more my end of town. So,
Sure. What's your favorite restaurant?
Oh, Plonk. Their Cosmos are the best. Food's good. The Cosmos are awesome.
I think Matt, our marketing director, would agree with you that Plonk's,
all right. Good guy.
Probably have seen each other there and not realized it.
What zip code do you live in?
59834.
Ooh, Frenchtown.
Yep. How
How'd we get her on the Missoula podcast?
Yeah,
I don't know,
you
she's an outsider.
infiltrated the Missoula podcast. That's okay. She works in Missoula.
Okay.
I work in Missoula.
All
I did
right.
live here too for a long time.
Okay, we're good. What where are we in the questions?
What is the weirdest thing
Weirdest, there we go.
about Missoula to you?
You can surf here. What is that?
That's true. I don't know if anyone's ever said that before. That's a great point.
Yeah, seriously. I tell people, we can go surfing, and they look at you like you are a landlocked state. Where does that come from? So yes.
Have you ever done it?
No,
No. me neither. I want to. It's just...
I like my bones in place. Thank you very much. So
It looks so easy when you stand there and watch people. They make surfing look so easy.
they do. I'm a kayaker. Give me a nice, calm stream or a lake.
Have you
and I'm
gone
good.
through Brennan's Wave on a
Yes,
kayak?
I have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That much I've done.
Okay. What do you love the most about Missoula?
I think one of the reasons that really attracted me to move here, in addition to this this role at my work, but I love how people here embrace diversity. I think the real driving thing is when you go down for the concerts down in Caras Park and you see just across the board of ages and just generations all just getting together and enjoying themselves. And I think we're so accepting of diversity here, and I love that.
Is there a specific book that has made an impact more than others on your life?
I think from a professional standpoint, I'm a big fan of John Maxwell as a leadership. And Falling Forward was one of the books that really drove me, I think, to go back and get, my degree in education. And really because I wasn't doing what I was enjoying. And that was an opportunity to learn from that mistake and improve that.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Gayle, tell us a little bit about some of the demographics, the unknown about hunger here in Montana in our community, the things that those of us that are blessed and don't have to stop and think about when our next meal is going to come from are just completely unaware of. Help paint a picture of what people face, some of those challenges here in Western Montana.
One thing I learned not only when I came to Montana, but when I started working in food banking world is you can never judge someone by just looking at the car that they drive or the clothes that they wear or the house that they live in. Because so many people are on the edge of, one medical disaster in their family away from, one other issues that may come up that is very expensive for them. They're all one step away from being able to utilize a pantry. So I know I've heard some criticism of people who come up and say, well, they have a cell phone and they drive a nice car and yet they're standing in line at a pantry. You don't know what happened in their life. And so I think we all need to kind of be a little more sensitive to that. 1 in 9 people in Montana are facing hunger. So when you sit in a group in a community environment or something, think of how many people could be experiencing that.
What are some of the biggest barriers to ending hunger here in Montana? Why has this problem not been solved?
I think a lot of it challenges we run into is access here. When you think about some of these rural communities and they've got to drive 100, 150 miles to a grocery store. I spent some time in the lower southeast part of the state one summer and was just there 1 week. And I can tell you, I got really tired eating fried foods out of a convenience store because the closest, community was 100 miles away. And so that was our grocery store. It was our restaurant. It was everything for a few days. And this is what they face. So if you're, first of all, struggling with, costs of fuel, or you don't have a car, a reliable car in front of you, then that's, one of the bases of hunger is being able to get access to that and affordable food as well.
What is a major goal that you're working on right now for the food bank? Is there like something have a vision for 2025 or 2030 or anything like that?
Well, our first big thing that we have in front of us is moving to our new facility, which is going to allow us just to incredibly expand our services and our ability to acquire food and distribute food. So we're looking at doing that in the short term. We should be in there by this summer, and we can double our warehouse storage space and things like that. I think our ultimate goal is not necessarily, I don't think we're ever as a society going to end hunger. But we can end the inability to access food. So I think our goal right now is just to make sure that every community, every county has some sort of a pantry, food kitchen, something like that is available to their community members so that everybody has access to food, even if you can't afford it. So that's, and healthy, nutritious food as well, just, not the dime store stuff.
Yeah,
so we just want to make sure that every county has that kind of access there.
For someone listening today,
Mhm.
here in our local community, what is some way they can help or contribute to Montana Food Bank?
This is one of those nonprofits that I've really appreciated is it's not just all about the cash contributions. Also, although keeping in mind that, the local pantry can make a dollar go a lot further than, anybody else can. So that cash contribution does go a long way. But you can volunteer. They always need someone to help with distributions, to do food packaging, those kinds of things. That's one thing to do. I also encourage businesses to kind of make this a team effort, team building effort to be able to help and support one of your local pantries. Or if you have a holiday, let's just say, or a birthday or an anniversary, and you just don't need any more gifts, or maybe you could all contribute as a family and raise some funds or food for your local pantry. So there's a lot of creative ways that you can do to support this effort.
Have you had any mentors that have helped you along the way? I mean, I know obviously John Maxwell books, but any other specific people that have encouraged you as you're trying to conquer this huge task?
Yeah. Actually, it goes way, way before I even got involved in this. And as I'd mentioned before, I always had a love of law. So my first undergrad is in legal administration. So I worked for a couple of law firms. The very first law firm I had out of college was a gentleman by the name of Chris Natsis. And he was an older gentleman, and he was the most informative and influential person I think I can say in my professional career. One of the big things he ever taught me was never take no for an answer. and there's so many times I lean on that. And just, it's made me more inquisitive. It's made me more wanting to know how things work, not just accept the status quo and just continue to ask those questions and just don't take no. He was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
When you get done with your career at the Montana Food Bank, what's the legacy that you hope you leave as the CEO?
I hope that I leave an organization that is healthy, thriving, and serving all of the agencies to the capacity that they can possibly serve. So I just want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all 56 counties, all 185 agencies, all 330 partners that we work with. So that's what I want to leave. Mm-hmm.
Gayle, if someone listening needs help or knows somebody in need of food or assistance, what advice, what recommendation do you have for them?
Well, I think the first thing I would do is the stigma and the uncomfortableness of going to the pantry is something that somebody needs help with. So if you have a family member or a neighbor or somebody that needs some assistance, there's going to be some hesitancy there because they don't want to ask for that. It's
shame,
humility. Oh, yeah.
Embarrassment.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of associated with that. So I would, feel very comfortable with just saying, walk with them to the nearest pantry, take them to the nearest pantry. If you don't know where that's at and you don't know where to find that in your community, you can go to our website at mfbn.org, and we have a list of all the agencies that we work with, along with their addresses and things like that. But take them there because they will find that it's an incredibly welcoming, warm environment. They want you to feel welcome. They want you to be helped.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say somebody in their 20s, young girl, young man, listening to this, and they feel this passion to get involved and serve, or maybe a career like you in public service and serving people.
Yeah. What
advice would you give to that young person that would maybe help their journey be a little more smooth than yours?
I would say, first of all, step up and volunteer, become a part of the solution. And there's a lot of communities that have pantries, churches that have pantries that might not even be a part of our network. Universities also have a lot of pantries. So step up and volunteer, be a part of that. And you will learn the intrinsic rewards that go along with that. And then maybe begin to understand what it takes to run that type of an organization if they want to immerse in that. It's not always a degree that you need to have, although that's really helpful, especially when you get to my level of understanding finance and budgeting and all those, business side of it. But first of all, you have to develop that passion, and then the rest of it will go right along with it.
Gayle, my last question for you. If there was one message you'd like to get out to the community of Missoula, or say it was something on a billboard, or you had 30 seconds and a microphone to speak into the lives of our community, what would you say?
Hunger is a hidden issue. And it's something we need to bring to the surface, and we need to make it so there's no shame associated with it, and that we all could always be one step away from that.
Gayle, thank you for the impact you're making here in Missoula. It's a better community because of people like you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this to everybody's attention.
Thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Gayle.
Thank you.
What's up, Missoula? This is Nick Balla, producer of the Missoula Podcast. We truly appreciate you hanging out with us as we dive into the stories that make our city special. If you could do us a quick favor and follow the show wherever you are listening, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, maybe you're watching on YouTube, so hit that little subscribe button. It really helps us out. Head on over to www.themissoulapodcast.com for more information, and we'll see you next week.